So it wasn't the move fans were hoping for, but the Arizona Cardinals did sign a linebacker today. In this video, I'm going to talk about Nick Vigil, the player the Cardinals signed, how he fits in the roster, and what it probably means moving forward. Nick Vigil is a 28-year-old inside linebacker. He's 6'2", 240 pounds, and was selected in the third round of the 2016 draft by the Cincinnati Bengals out of Utah State. Prior to the draft, he ran a 4.72 40-yard dash, which is pretty typical for an inside linebacker. He's not an elite athlete at the position, but does seem to have adequate physical traits to be an inside linebacker. Now, Cardinals fans might be familiar with Nick Vigil because of the pick 6 he had in week 2 when the Cardinals played the Vikings. And while the interception may have left a lasting memory in the minds of Cardinals fans, when you look at his stats, he's only had 3 career interceptions. Over the years, he has played a fair bit and has gone between being a starter and a rotational linebacker. But you'll also notice that his PFF grades aren't that impressive. They range from pedestrian to bad, to be quite frank. So what does this addition mean for the Cardinals? I'm going to look at this and present sort of a best case scenario for what Nick Vigil means for the Cardinals, what I think is a worst case scenario, and then one outside of the box scenario that probably isn't going to happen but is a possibility. Let's start with the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that we see a repeat of the 2021 season with Zaven Collins not cracking the starting lineup, but instead of Jordan Hicks getting those starting reps, we have a downgrade to Nick Vigil as that starting linebacker. But when you look at his PFF grades and how he's performed over his career, I have a hard time seeing the Cardinals playing him as a starter with a first-round pick in Zaven Collins as the backup. I think the more likely implication, and what I'm considering the best case scenario, is that the Cardinals do plan to make Zaven Collins the starting Mike linebacker, which in essence means he would take over the role that Jordan Hicks played last year, and Nick Vigil would come in to be that backup depth linebacker, taking over the role that Zaven Collins played part of last year. And this really is probably the best fit for Nick Vigil, to be sort of a rotational backup depth middle linebacker, where you're not depending on him to be your starter, but he does bring a veteran presence to the locker room and can play if you need him to. There is, though, an outside of the box scenario that I mentioned, and that scenario would involve the Cardinals moving Zaven Collins to outside linebacker. Prior to the 2021 NFL draft, there were rumors that the Cardinals were going to draft Zaven Collins and move him to outside linebacker. Now, they didn't do that initially. He played as a middle linebacker, but they did play him on the edge some late in the season. So it is conceivable that maybe the Cardinals would end up moving Collins to outside linebacker and play Vigil and Simmons on the inside. I don't think that's the likely outcome, and it's not something I want to see. I think Zaven Collins should be the future Mike linebacker, or at least have the chance to show that he could be, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Cardinals could do such a move. Now, don't come at me in the comments on this one. I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm not even saying it's a likely outcome, but when you put the pieces together, it's something that seems like a possibility. But the most likely reality is what the Cardinals just did is sign some much needed depth at inside linebacker and are planning to go with Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons as their inside linebackers in the 2022 season. If this is your first time coming across one of my videos, please do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. Also, please click like on this video and let me know in the comments what you think of the Nick Vigil signing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Cardinal Rule.